No, okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and call the regular assembly meeting to order. It is 6:03. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
I will. Tim Hale, are you on the phone?
Here.
Stephanie Nowers, here. I'm expecting Dee McKee. Robert Yunt is probably not going to be present. Moki, too.
Here.
Dimitri Fonoff.
Oh, here.
Ron Bernier is running late, but you do have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anything the members would like to pull from the consent agenda? Or any changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing and hearing none, then the agenda is approved. So if you'll all stand with me, and Moki, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the minutes from the preceding meetings. The one from August 1st, which was a regular assembly meeting, August 8th, which was a special meeting, and August 15th, which was a regular assembly meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes that have been presented? Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. The next item is agency reports, and we don't have anybody on from the cities. One of the things we have given the cities the option now of calling in, but we don't have anybody online right now. So you may start to hear more reports from the cities regarding that. A report from the school district. Okay, I don't see anybody. Mr. State of Alaska, Todd, you can give us a report, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and members of the Assembly, Manager Brown, staff, and constituents. Todd Smolden with the Governor's Office. And I don't have a lot to report, but I thought I should be here in case anybody has any questions. A couple of things that I would like to point out is one, just to appreciate the Assembly's participation and staff's participation in the signing of SB 87, which is the lumber grading legislation that passed. I think that's pretty exciting for the timber industry. Also appreciate the work that the Matsu Borough staff has done and the Assembly on timber sales that actually sell. That's a new concept, which I would hope that the state of Alaska could also accomplish. So, and I think your model in working with industry to do that is really should be commended. I also wanted to mention that the governor made an appointment to the Board of Regents, and many of you will probably be familiar with the appointee. That's former Assembly member Steve Culligan. I think I'm pretty excited about this. One of the things that the governor is looking at for the state of Alaska is to become a leader in drone technology and drone flying. And I also see potential for some of the Matsu airports with a little less traffic to potentially take advantage of that. And the University of Alaska is doing a lot of research. There was a budget item for the University of Alaska on specifically drone research, and the university also had a drone conference. So I think having former Assemblymember Culligan on the Board of Regents is a really good addition when it comes to that particular aspect, as well as a lot of other skills that he has and experience in the state. That's about all I had tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions for Todd? No? Okay.
Well, I'm looking forward to the special meeting next week, and I will be in attendance unless something happens to me. But looking forward to that, and I do have a family event that I need to go home for tonight. So, but thank you again for your service. Appreciate it.
And thank you for always being here. It's very informative. Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a report from the Matsu Convention and Visitors Bureau. Congratulations. And let the record show that Assemblyperson McKee arrived at 6:07.
If I can get you to turn that mic back on, just press that button. Thank you.
I'm here too.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ron. Go ahead, sir.
Well, the main update from the Matsu CVB is me. You've become accustomed to seeing Bonnie Quill give these reports, and Bonnie announced her retirement this fall. And our board, in the sake of transparency, went through a very exhaustive search process with a national search firm. It was 3 months. It was 4 interviews, and thankfully, they elected to hire from within. So that's what I'm here today to do. And my name is Casey Ressler. I've been with the Matsu CVB for 17 years. So I guess I'm the old new or the new old guy. Just a little bit about me. If the mayor and assembly member now won't hold it against me, I'll tell you, I grew up in Wasilla and graduated from Wasilla High School. Ironically, I couldn't wait to leave Alaska. Alaska was too small for me when I was 18, I thought. So I went to Michigan State, and became very apparent that this was my home. And so when I finished college, that's what I did. I came home, and now I have the privilege to talk about our destination and sell it to visitors. We genuinely value our partnership with the Matsu Borough, and I'm looking to build on that. And we'd like to thank you for investing in tourism promotion. Tourism is very important to me, and I think it not only benefits the valley economically, but it also contributes to a quality way of life through infrastructure development and the dollars that come from outside and keep circulating from within. I'll tell you a little story, and there is a moral to this. If you gave me a hammer, a box of nails, and some wood, within 2 minutes, I'd have 2 broken hands. I wouldn't even know what to do with it. But that's not what I know. I would have hired an expert. So I don't expect any of you to be experts on tourism, but I certainly expect our organization to be the experts. So that's what we're here for, is to be the resource and the partners for the borough for economic development through tourism. Because of that, I'd like to meet individually with you, just informally, and just kind of see where your thoughts are on tourism, how we can work, and how we can strengthen that partnership together. This is the time of year when I get the $1 million question. How many visitors did the Matsu Valley have this summer? And the honest answer is, we don't know. Without investing $50,000 to $60,000 worth of research, it's really hard to kind of quantify that number. But we can look into other data points and get a vision of the trends and where we're going and the health of the overall industry. So I can report to you that through the 3rd quarter of the fiscal year, the borough had already collected over $1.3 million in bed tax revenue, and that isn't including the 4th quarter, which is by far the largest quarter. So to put it into perspective, in FY22, for the entire fiscal year, the borough collected $1.476 million. So from a bed tax revenue collection, it's looking like a very, very strong summer. Our organization recently subscribed to a monitoring platform called AirDNA. And what it does is it scrapes short-term rentals from VRBO and Airbnb, and we can look at pacing of bookings. We can look at how many bookings, the revenue per available room. So with the explosion in short-term rentals, it does give us a really good snapshot of how the industry is looking. But we literally onboarded this on Friday, so very fresh numbers. I looked at from July 2022 to 2023 and compared that to the previous 12 months. There was a 19.5% increase in demand for room nights over that year, and a 34% increase in generated revenue. So that's a really good sign that the health of the industry is really, really good. And what's even more amazing, I thought, was that there was a 23% increase in overall available listings. That means, every day there's another listing that's coming on in the valley that's generating room nights and more tourism dollars for our community. Lastly, I also wear the hat of being on the leadership team for the Arctic Winter Games. I've been a part of that organization along with Russ since its inception, and can't thank you guys enough for the support that you give that organization and that event. It's a project that is honestly one of the most inspiring things that I've done in my career, and I'm definitely happy to be a part of it. And rumor has it that the mayor has already designed her pin.
I have.
So
yeah.
I'm ready to trade when you are.
Okay.
So,
All right. We'll have them pretty quickly. Yeah.
Sounds good.
You'll be impressed.
But thank you.
Not from me, but from the staff. They did excellent. Yes.
So,
yeah.
thank you.
So can I ask you a question before you leave?
Yeah.
So Is there any way, or do you already count the out of borough people that come to the fair as visitors?
We would count that as a in-state visitor from Alaska for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Anybody else have any questions?
I don't have a question, but just congratulations on the new
Oh, thank
position
you.
and look forward to seeing you more at the assembly.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. I understand there has not been a joint Assembly School Board Committee meeting on school issues. There will be one on Monday. And of course, the school board will be here meeting with us on Tuesday night as a special meeting. Are there any public relations reports? Okay, Mr. Brown, do you have a report, sir?
I do not have a report tonight, Madam Mayor.
No, okay. Anybody have any?
I know.
Anybody have any questions, comments? No. Yes, go ahead. Oh, you're just getting ready for me to ask you.
I'm just getting ready.
Okay, all right. Mr. Attorney, do you have a report?
I do not.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
The agendas for next Tuesday are in your packet. Attached to that is also an action memorandum that is going to approve the election officials. We needed to get that done before the 27th or the next regular meeting, so we put it on the Joint Assembly School Board meeting agenda. And if you'll note, we need 41 more hand count officials. And people drop out all the time, so having probably 60 more on hand would be great. So if you can encourage people to please sign up to hand count, it would be very much appreciated.
Right. And those are paid positions.
They are paid positions, correct?
Right. Okay. Any other questions to the clerk? Okay. The next item on our agenda is citizens and other correspondence. Are there any comments on the citizens and other correspondence? Hearing none, they are presented. Madam Clerk, will you please read the IMs into the record?
IM 23-186, notification of certification of the 2023 regular real property, personal property, oil and gas properties, exempt properties, and Board of Equalization actions. IM 23-190, informing the Assembly of the manager entering into an all-cash purchase agreement with a lease to purchase by application the Alaska Division of Lands, lease number 41916, for the fee simple estate of borough-owned lands. IM 23-191, informing the Assembly of a grant amendment number 5 for PW 137 of the 2018 November Cook Inlet Earthquake Disaster titled Point McKenzie Rail Project to be presented to the manager for signature. IM 23-193, informing the Assembly of the manager's signature on a submittal of the annual emergency management performance grant application. And IM 23-194, informing the Assembly of the manager's signature and submittal of a federal fiscal year 2022 state and local cybersecurity grant application.
Are there any comments on the IMs? Hearing none, they are presented. We do not have any persons to be heard.
Ready for me to?
Yep. Public hearing notices, please, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 23081, an ordinance amending MSB 2.52 to 80A, administrative leave to change military leave time to working hours instead of working days. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
And Mr. Attorney, staff report, sir.
Mayor, members of the Assembly, this does what the title says. It changes it from days to hours. There's a federal law and a state law, both which provide that people who are in the military who have to take leave for their military service have to be compensated. Federal law requires 15 days, but our state requires 16 and a half days. Federal law defines days as 8 hours. As the borough has grown and workforce has grown and alternate work schedules have become a thing, especially post-COVID or during COVID. We have some workers doing 8 hours a day, some do 10 hours a day, and then all the way up to our EMS folks who sometimes do 24-hour shifts. And so the word day is starting to become cause issues in terms of the workability and, what does that mean in terms of compensation and payment for our employees. So the solution here is to change the borough code from days to hours. So you'll see that in the section 2 of the ordinance, where it talks about 3 working days for training, that's changed to 24 working hours. And then For the absence, 16 and a half working days is changed to 132 working hours. And not surprisingly, if you multiply 16 and a half by 8, that's how you get those numbers. And then we're clarifying the calendar days in there. And then also regarding the final part where the employee shall receive full pay for the first, instead of 30 days, we've changed that to 240 working hours of active service. So it's to avoid issues, regarding disputes with employees about compensability and things like that. It's all being changed to hours.
Okay, questions to staff? Okay, hearing none, then I will go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-081. We do not have a sign-up sheet. Anyone in the audience is welcome to address the assembly for 3 minutes on this ordinance. Do we have anybody online, Caleb? We do not. One last time for anybody in the audience that would like to address the assembly on this ordinance. Seeing no one, then I will close public hearing. And Assemblyperson Nowers?
I move to adopt ordinance 23-081.
Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the legislation passes.
Ordinance 23-082, an ordinance approving the sale of real property acquired through tax foreclosure for the delinquent real property tax year 2017 and prior and not needed for public purpose. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Staff, hi.
Good evening. My name is Jill
Good
Ersick. I work with the Land Management Division of the Mat-Su Borough, obviously. This ordinance in front of you is just to add a property to this year's tax foreclosure sale. Back in June, you approved the listing for TS 44. This is a property that we took clerk's deed on in 2022, and generally procedure has been to hold on to those properties for 2 years. This was scheduled to be sold in next year's sale. It's come to pass that this property has had many complaints from the neighbors on it. It has open code compliance case against it for junk and trash. Right now, it has squatters on it. So it's just one of those properties that we don't feel we should be holding on to any longer than we have to. It would schedule to be in this fall sale, which will open September 25th. Sale date would be October 28th.
Questions to staff? Okay, thank you. So I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-082. Anyone that's in the audience is welcome to address the assembly on this ordinance for 3 minutes. Okay, Caleb, do we have anybody online? We don't have a sign-up sheet either. Okay. So seeing no one, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and Assemblyperson Nowers.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-082.
Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the legislation passes.
Ordinance 23-083, an ordinance reappropriating $158,000 from the Brett Memorial Ice Arena roof replacement project to the Brett Memorial Ice Arena lighting and ceiling barrier replacement project. The accompanying resolution 23-089, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for the Brett Memorial Ice Arena lighting and ceiling barrier replacement project. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Staff?
Good evening, Eric Phillips, Community Development Director. Yeah, so the roof project out there at the rink, the bids came in real favorable, and there's over $400,000 left in the project budget. However, a couple projects have came up. One is a ceiling replacement as well as a lighting replacement. The ceiling's actually just a big insulated blanket that goes up at the top of the building that keeps the cold in and the heat out. The original one was put in like 1982. So every time a hockey puck hits it, it literally disintegrates. And so with these extra funds, we wanted to do that. And we also want to replace the lights in there, which we're going to do very cost effectively because our rink staff is going to work with the O&M staff, and we're going to do all the work internally. And so anyway, combining those two together costs $158,000, and we're proposing to transfer some funds from the roof project to these two projects so we can have it done before the Arctic Winter Games start next spring.
Okay, questions to staff? Okay, seeing none, thank you, sir. So I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-083 and resolution 23-089. No sign-up sheet, okay. Anyone is welcome to address the assembly on this ordinance and this resolution. Okay, anybody online, sir? No. Okay, one last chance for anybody in the audience? Nope. With that, I'll close the public hearing and Assemblyperson Nowers.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-083 and resolution 23-089.
Okay, is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, the legislation passes.
Ordinance 23084, an ordinance amending MSB 5.25032, service area number 17, Connect Road Service Area to provide for a five-member board of supervisors. Madam Mayor, this is coming before the Assembly at the request of Assembly Member 2 and also at the request of the Connect Road Service Area. They're requesting to have a five-member board rather than a three. There are other Board of Supervisors that have done this, and that is what I got.
Okay, any questions to staff regarding the ordinance? Okay, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing then for ordinance 23-084. We have a sign-up sheet, we do not. Does anyone like to testify to the assembly for 3 minutes on this ordinance? Do we have anybody online, sir? We do not. One last chance for anybody in the audience. Okay, I'll close the public hearing on ordinance 23-084 and Assemblyperson 2.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-084.
Okay, thank you. Discussion?
I'd like to speak a little on it
Sure,
too.
go ahead, sir.
The Connect RSA road service is like 170 some miles, which by far is way, way larger than any other RSA. Most RSAs are 100 miles or less. So this gives a lot more chance for the actual community to weigh in on the RSA, on what to do, what not to do, how it's doing, so forth and so on. So I think this is a great idea.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any objection to the legislation? Seeing and hearing none, then the legislation passes.
Resolution 23093, a resolution approving a portion of the issuance of the Public Finance Authority Revenue Bonds, Series 2023, Aurora Integrated Oncology Foundation, in a maximum aggregate par amount not to exceed $250 million. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Okay. We have staff. Staff, sir?
That's me. Sorry, 1 second, please. I'm pulling up the IM. Mayor and members of the Assembly, so what this is tonight before you is Assembly approved local governing body approval for the issuance of tax-free bonds. Approval of the local governing body is a prerequisite to issue tax-free bonds under the IRS code, as laid out in the resolution itself. The approval here does not mean that the borough is responsible for paying for any of this. It doesn't mean that we're responsible for getting involved in any of the business aspects. It's approval of the project in a general sense so that it qualifies under IRS code to issue tax-exempt financing. Attached to the IM was an introductory summary letter and an overview of kind of the mission and the vision of the oncology folks. And I believe they're here and can speak under audience participate or under public testimony regarding this as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions to staff? Yeah, Assemblyperson
I'm
Nowers.
sorry, this is for the attorney. So approval also means if we approve this, we are saying as the assembly representing the borough that we believe this is in the public interest.
I would say that's an accurate statement of fact. It's not required under the IRS code. Nothing in the IRS code says that that finding be made. But I think just in a general political sense, then the answer to that, I would say yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions to staff? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing for Resolution 23-093. We do not have a sign-up sheet. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience is welcome to testify to the assembly on Resolution 23-093. Yes, come forward, please. And then just state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes, each of you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the Assembly. My name is Sherry Hinshaw, and I'm the President and CEO of the Aurora Integrated Oncology Foundation, and I appreciate your time and consideration tonight. I'll just briefly state some of what was in the packet included, which is really why this organization formed. And I also have Dr. John Halligan here, who is the founder of the Mat-Su Valley Cancer Center, and he can speak to you a little bit about what he's seen in terms of access to oncology services in Alaska. So the Aurora Integrated Oncology Foundation is a new nonprofit that was formed with a local Alaskan board of directors to really decrease the cost of care for patients, to increase access to care, and to really make long-term sustainability for oncology services in Alaska. We nationally have some of the worst outcomes in terms of late-stage diagnoses than any other state, and also the highest cost of care. So by turning existing cancer centers into nonprofit organizations, we're able to save funds from federal taxes, from synergies gained, to really create a revenue that can be put back into services or philanthropic giving, which is why the name has foundation in it. The goal is to really decrease the cost to patients, to make it more accessible, and reduce those financial concerns of accessing care, and really ensure the long-term sustainability with workforce. By having a combined group, we're able to invest in some of the workforce shortages that we've seen in healthcare, and retention of groups by creating opportunities for them to share with each other and able to access technology that you might not otherwise be able to afford. We've gone through this same process to have local jurisdiction approval in order to access tax-exempt financing, which again reduces the cost of debt service. We've done this process in Anchorage, Kenai, and Juneau, and all of those have been approved, and we appreciate your consideration and support tonight so that we can move forward as an organization with the Mat-Su Valley Cancer Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, Assembly members, Mr. Brown. As she said, my name is John Halligan. I'm the senior medical doctor in our group of physicians. And when I came up here 15 years ago after retiring out of the Army, it was an interesting introduction to private practice and what patients go through in the civilian world versus the military. And it became clear that there were some people who lacked things that I, as a military physician, took for granted. And also within Alaska, being so remote in a lot of ways, different areas, just trying to get care locally, that led to us opening our first freestanding cancer center. I arrived up at Providence as the medical director for radiation oncology. And then we opened a center 10 years ago now in Soldotna, in partnership with the hospital there. Short time later, we opened a center in Juneau. And then 7 years ago, we opened our center here in the Mat-Su Valley. And finally, we opened a freestanding center in the midtown of Anchorage. Part of the driving force for opening the center out here was, again, the quality of care was somewhat lacking. We were approached by actually one of the physicians who was at the existing center out here, and they were using much older technology that was really a couple of generations behind and not providing the state-of-the-art care. And so that's part of why we opened the center. And now, as I've hit 60 and looking forward to retiring 5 years, started thinking about what is going to be the best way to ensure that these centers that we have built that continue to provide state-of-the-art care and not be something that is just run for financial reasons by somebody else long after I retire. We could have sold the center to one of the hospital systems or a national chain, but we came up with the idea of starting the foundation where their primary mission is to ensure that we have and continue to have the state-of-the-art cancer care in Alaska in all our centers. And with the tightening of finances, I think in healthcare in Alaska, we did see that there would be a risk to the ability to maintain that. And we thought the foundation as a tax-free entity would be better able to finance and continue to ensure that our patients, whether they're in the Matsu or Juneau, are getting just as good care as they would get in Seattle. And that's the main driver of this. And since I'm running out of time, I will stop there and allow if people have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, I'm sorry, it's not a time for Assembly to ask questions maybe, and when they get into their debate, they may want to, but, right, thank you. Anyone else that would like to testify on Resolution 23-093? Do we have anybody on? We do not have anybody online. Last chance, anybody else? Okay, I'll close the public hearing on Resolution 23-093. Assemblyperson Hours.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-093.
Okay, discussion? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I do have some concerns about this. So I have no problem with the merger, no problem with the goals of the group, but what we're being asked, as I understand it, is to say this is in the public interest, so much so that we approve of it getting tax-free financing. And in looking at the background of that particular exemption that the federal government allows, it's for the public interest. And so I just have a really difficult time saying, I believe, this is our reputation to say we believe this is in the public interest. So hopefully it will succeed, but if it doesn't, then I think it kind of comes back to us that we said this was going to be a good thing, and that, the goals are to give money to charity, to increase care, to have better equipment there. If all that doesn't come to pass, and I have no way of telling that. So it's hard for me as the person representing District 2 to say, I have determined this is in the public interest. And there's other ways this deal could go through. I mean, it doesn't have to have tax exempt financing. I realize that makes it cheaper, but I guess before me as an individual assembly member has determined this is in the public interest, and I just cannot get to that point because there's no guarantees that this will come to pass as people hope. And again, I hope it does, but that's just where I stand on this issue and why I'll be voting no on this.
Okay, Assemblyperson Fonoff.
Yeah, I had some of those same concerns that honestly, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee none of us will wake up tomorrow, especially those patients who particularly going through cancer treatment. They're holding on to possibly every bit chance to possibly get the last chance at their life. So, and same questions that I did have, and I spent probably well over an hour on the phone with Dr. John, and the track record shows that they've been doing a lot of good work, and I think he answered a lot of the questions that I had. And as far as what foundation will do to use, I guess, to pass on that saving to the community, how patients that are specifically need treatment might be living in Trapper Creek or in Sutton that have a long distance that they have to go through daily thing. It's just not feasible to even travel with, especially when they're in that health, stage of their life. But perhaps they would be investing these kind of resources to fund housing where the patients could stay overnight and things like that. So there's many, I think, great things that could come out of it. And in my opinion, we should fully support that, and it's worth getting behind, giving them that chance, and hopefully they'll give a lot of people chances at life through this.
Further discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just want to say that I do believe that this is in public interest, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Yes, Assemblyperson McKee.
Yeah, just a comment. I've been in Alaska all my life, and everybody says, well, if something really goes wrong with you, you need to hit the road, go outside. And this is a step that says, maybe not. Maybe we can do it here. And that's such a huge calamity when you do have to pack up at such a vulnerable time in your life. And if this kind of thing can allow people to get the treatment here, like the doctor said, the same as you'd get in Seattle, nobody knows how it's all going to turn out, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm for it.
Further discussion? Okay. Well, I have some grave concerns, and I'll tell you why. First of all, we are a second-class borough. There are certain powers that second-class boroughs have, according to state statute. Health powers is not one of them. So, to me, I don't know how we can approve something that has to do with health when we do not have the power to do that. The state is the one that has the power to do that, just like we don't have police powers. And so it's state troopers that take care of things here. It's very well defined regarding what we can and cannot do regarding any power for a borough. And we are second class. There's only one way that it could change. It would be if the voters wanted to bring forth something, which would be a long, complicated undertaking to put it on the ballot, to ask people if they want the borough to have health powers. I'm not advocating for that at all. But I am concerned that we are overstepping our bounds. And what it bothers me regarding it is this is, I think, where governments get into trouble. That sounds like a wonderful thing. And I don't disagree with what their goal and stuff is. But I don't think as an elected official and knowing what my restraints are, that I can support something that proves a power that we do not have. So that's where I'm at. Okay, further discussion?
I guess, I think Nick might have briefly mentioned that, but before I've gotten into support of this and spent a lot of time on this, I did talk to Manager Brown, and I believe I was on the phone with Nick, and this is not us getting in the healthcare business from what I understand. And if I may ask Nick for him to explain a little more in detail how this impacts or puts any liability on us, I would like to hear that, because from my understanding, that this is something, it's like a resolution that we passed, like they did at the other locations already, where they had very opposite sides and control of the government on other parts of the state, and they were able to get it through. Especially, I think in Anchorage, they had a working group specifically that went in through rigorous process before they sent for a recommendation to adopt it. So if there's those questions our attorney could answer, I would really appreciate that.
Sure. Mr. Attorney?
Well, with regards to Anchorage, they're a home rule municipality, so they can do anything not prohibited by law, and they in fact do have health powers because they run, building, restaurant inspections and building codes and health codes for various things, I believe. With regards to like the Kenai Borough, they run 2 hospitals through service areas, so there's a health power connection there too.
And same thing with Juneau.
And Juneau as well. Juneau's a home rule municipality as well, so they can do any power not prohibited by law. As it comes to your question about legal liability, I think the resolution is pretty clear that nothing obligates the borough to any payment or anything like that. And we also put into the resolution that nothing in this resolution limits the borough's authority as a governmental entity, for planning, zoning, or any of the things that we typically do. So there's no liability from that perspective in the resolution.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right. Assembly Person Hours.
I would just say that I do think again, there's a reason that this type of financing requires coming to elected bodies because it's going through a federal exemption on taxes. So it's not whether we think this is, whether, just back up, that this to me is a private transaction. This could be financed privately. It's impossible for me to say this is in the best interest of borough residents because we'll have no control over this once it happens. It hopefully will expand care, but centers could close. Things could happen. We just do not have any control over it. We don't have health power, so I can't, I agree. We don't have the ability to make a health determination. But again, like the basis for giving a tax exemption, as I read it in the statute, is that it's got to be in the public interest. And I cannot sit up here and say, I know this is going to be in the public interest. And I think there's an alternative, which is to go out and do finance. So I have qualms about being involved, the borough sanctioning a transaction and offering a break on the financing for a single entity that I think it's really a private transaction.
Okay, further discussion? Question? We ready to, I think we have an objection, so we will need to go ahead and vote.
Members in the room could go ahead and vote. Assemblymember Hale.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, it has passed with Assemblymember Nowers and Bernier opposed.
Okay. Okay, the next item on our agenda is audience participation. Do we have a sign-up sheet? I haven't decided for sure, but I may veto this. Okay. So, Travis, there you are. You state your name, even though I said it on the record, please. Yeah, and green lights, go, sir.
Okay. Hello. I'm Travis Friesen. I live in Palmer, and it's my first time participating in the borough council meetings. I've been going to the Palmer City Council meetings quite often these days, and I've been trying to push my agenda on having more recycling around not just Palmer but in the valley, because one time me and my mom went to San Francisco and we were kind of blown away how many for every trash can there's also recycle bins next to them. So I think I think for us to promote the valley as a green place and a clean place to live, I'm kind of surprised that when I go into the stores, there's no place for to put your recyclings inside. So I like to see more of that, And I've also seen on the agendas you're talking about doing a landfill. I would like to see more maybe recycling bins, more recycling centers, and maybe some recycling drop-offs around the valley, so that people who live as far as Talkeetna or Sutton will have a place to drop off the recyclings. And I think it would be very beneficial for the environment and Matsu. I wish I had maybe next time I'll bring some recycling pamphlets from the Valley Recycling Center so that you guys can see, and hopefully hopefully would change your minds, and you probably be more proactive with what people throw out nowadays. Do I press this?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Thank you. You did excellent, Travis. Okay, let's see, John, and I guess he's left. Jennifer?
Hello, good evening. I hope everyone is recovering from their state fair food coma, as I am. So sorry if I speak a little slow tonight, but my name is Jennifer Castro. I'm the Public Relations Manager at Matanuska Electric Association. I have over 20 years of professional and public communications experience, including working in essential public services. I recognize some of you as I worked on all of the public communications and project outreach for the Fishhook to Pittman Power Improvement Project. That includes constructing 2 new substations and a 20-mile-long transmission line to tie into our system so that we can provide safe, reliable, and affordable power to the residents and businesses of the fastest growing areas of the Mat-Su, specifically in the Fishhook and Meadow Lakes areas. I'm here to comment this evening on the introduction of MSB Ordinance 23-080 to amend essential service utilities and share with you what MEA's primary concerns are with this amendment as written. First, it's important to understand that MEA is a not-for-profit, member-owned cooperative. Any decisions or changes that are made in regard to policy, legislation, or code will always have an impact on you and I as co-op members and as ratepayers. We are also a state-regulated utility by the RCA, providing structure and order around how we provide the essential service of power to the communities we serve. Here are MEA's major concerns with this ordinance amendment. First, there's a few places where the language is too vague in the amendment, which can really make planning and executing projects difficult. For example, the amendment requires Type 2 essential service utilities to minimize the visual impact without substantially increasing costs. That's in section 17-05-048B1 and 3. With no defined limit to the cost of MEA members to minimize visual impacts, costs for projects could increase significantly. This also makes it difficult to determine a route or schedule for a project when there is no guidance on what specifically is required to minimize the visual impacts of a project. I would also like to point out in section 17.05.048 Part B focuses on specific conditional use permit factors such as visual and scenic resources, minimizing impacts to trails and public parks, and not interfering with existing airstrips. The biggest consideration that is missing here is impacts to existing homes and residents, which was the most important thing to our members and project stakeholders when developing a transmission line route in our most recent project development. According to community feedback, parks, views, view sheds, and trails had a medium sensitivity, while existing homes and structures held the highest sensitivity, the top priority to our community. Next, the language on public outreach has several items that should be addressed as well. First, it lacks consideration for different options and modern ways to communicate with stakeholders in our project development. The current amendment is limited to a traditional public outreach process requiring a couple of in-person evening meetings and notification through the postal mail. How much of your mail are you constantly throwing away?
Okay.
We recommend modifying this process to allow for more public participation, convenience, and a communication through a variety of channels. I'll just wrap this up, that MEA understands why the Mat-Su Borough is looking at adding additional structure to this public process. We know that it's difficult to develop written requirements that will address and prioritize all the concerns, and we appreciate the borough's efforts to do so. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to address the assembly on any issue? Anybody online, sir? No? Okay, anybody? Okay. I'll go ahead and close audience participation then. And we are at the consent agenda. Does any of the assembly have anything they want to pull from the consent agenda? Okay, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 23091, a resolution directing the manager to waive land use permit fees for the Matsu Ski Club. Resolution 23092, a resolution reappropriating $17,500 from the Trails Construction Repair and Maintenance Project, approving the scope of work and budget for a grant to the Matsu Ski Club, and authorizing the manager to sign a grant agreement with the Matsu Ski Club. AM 23096, awarded bid number 249B to Consolidated Contracting and Engineering in the contract amount of $132,999 to supply and install vehicle exhaust systems at Fire Station 33 and 35. AM 23097, approve the cost of $121,158.14 to MTA Communications for utility relocation services for the Erica Drive Improvements Project. AM 23098, authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement with Tyler Technologies for an enterprise permitting and licensing solution in the amount of $487,165. AM 23099, acceptance of late filed and retroactive senior citizen and disabled veteran exemption applications. AM 23100, awarded bid number 24023B to Nodak Electric and Construction in the contract amount of $150,600 to install pre-manufactured restrooms at Talkeetna Village Park. AM 23101, awarded bid number 24030B to JTA Construction LLC in the contract amount of $113,063 to construct parking lot improvements at Public Safety Building 82. AM 23102, awarded bid number 24031B to Scarcella Brothers in the contract amount of $2,140,110 to construct the new central landfill entrance. AM 23103, approved utility relocation costs to the MTA Communications in the amount of $327,425.24 for Paradise Lane and Dukedale Circle project. AM 23104, authorization to purchase sodium chloride from Northern Gravel and Trucking in the amount of $272,800. Awarded bid, AM 23105, awarded bid number 24028Q to the Boutte Company in the contract amount of $148,730 to design repairs for damages to the Demaree Circle Bridge over Cottonwood Creek and the Shoshana Drive Bridge over the Little Susitna River. And AM 23106, awarded bid number 24029B to K&H Civil Constructors in the contract amount of $313,611.70 to construct improvements to West Papoose Twins Road.
Okay, Assemblyperson Howard,
I move to approve the consent agenda as read into the record by the clerk.
is there any objection? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. There is no unfinished business, and I, at this time, will veto Resolution 23-093, as I believe it is outside the jurisdictions of the Assembly. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
On the one that we passed earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do we do the vote for the overriding that?
Go ahead.
There would need to be a motion to override the mayor's veto. If that motion is made, it takes 5 votes in the affirmative to override the veto.
5 out of. Okay, and considering that one of the sponsors that is not here, and so he's not able to vote, then are we able to do that when he's present or no? What's the rules?
I need to look at code real quick unless Mr.
Okay.
Spropoulos has it off the top of his head, whether
Okay.
we can move it
I'm
forward to
pulling-
the next meeting.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Thank you.
Okay. I think if there is a motion to, what we did last time anyway, was a motion to consider it at this meeting, but let's listen to the code.
State law provides that a veto may be overridden by a vote of 2/3 of the authorized membership of the governing body within 21 days following the exercise of the veto or at the next regular meeting, whichever is later. So it can be continued to the next regular meeting.
Or we can do it tonight also.
Or you can vote on it tonight. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to propose when all assemblies are in place and including one of the sponsors, and to have that ability to do that, because I don't know what the numbers are based on today's vote.
So if I'm clear, I just want to make clear that your intent is to override the veto at the next meeting. Is that what I'm
Is
hearing?
my, us, based on the definition, is it total body or out of those people who voted is the number, right?
It's out of the total body, not just the people who voted. So if you took care of it tonight, you would need 5 votes. If you took care of it at the next meeting, it would need to be 5 votes. Does that answer your question?
Okay, and today we have 4?
I don't know. I don't know how everybody would vote.
No. As far as at the vote that we did accept, what was the number?
You did have 4 in favor and 2 opposed tonight.
Okay, yeah, okay, then in that case, I would, since we have that option for until next meeting or 21 days, we'll have that option.
Okay. So the motion is on the floor and did he say which meeting or date did he say?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah. My concern was because one of the sponsors who we've worked with together on this thing is not here, and because he was planning to have an option to call in, but his work phone.
I'm not asking for justification, sir. I was asking for if you had stated what time frame.
At the next assembly meeting, yeah.
The next assembly meeting.
Yeah, when hopefully Mr.
Okay,
Young's
which
here.
is next week.
That's a joint school board. I'm hoping that it's during the regular next assembly meeting.
Okay.
If we're gonna have one within the next 21 days, is that what the rule was? And I believe we will have that option.
The next regular meeting is on the 26th.
26.
Right?
So that's that, right at 21, right? So according to Nick, that still would be appropriate time? Okay, that, I would accept that. So,
Okay.
thank you.
All righty. So the motion before you is to take up the veto at the next regular assembly meeting, which is September 26, 2023. Questions on the motion?
I just need to clarify because I don't think we've had one of these before. So we could vote no, and there would be no motion to override. We would not even have a motion to override, or we can vote yes, and then we will have a vote on whether or not to override on the 26th. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I did not hear Assemblymember Fonoff make a motion.
Oh,
Now, I
okay.
want to be clear on this. I think he's
okay.
requesting that it goes forward to this September 26th meeting, if I'm correct on that. Now, I might have been wrong, Madam Mayor,
Oh, okay.
but they can bring it forward to the 9/26 meeting.
Madam Mayor, a point of order.
Yes, go ahead.
I just would like some clarification. Does it require a motion for us to carry it over to the next meeting, or does it just automatically do that?
No, because there could be a motion to override tonight, right? So, I mean, we have that choice too.
My motion is to override, but to have the voting on next, so that we'll still have that option is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, okay, well, the clerk said she didn't hear you make a motion, that you just were sort of stating a fact or something. That's what she thought. So are you making the motion now, sir?
Correct. With the body to vote on to overturn the veto in the next regular meeting is what I'm asking if to have.
Okay. Oh, yes, Assemblyperson Hours.
I think I'm trying to clarify the same thing Tim is. On a motion to override at a future date, do we will take a vote on whether to do that or not, or does it just automatically get set?
Okay, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Right now, it's actually 2 separate motions. There's a motion to override, from what I understood from Assemblymember Fonoff, which does not need to be made tonight. It can wait it until 9/26. And then there's a motion to postpone that override to 9/26.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that I heard the clerk correctly. she said that the motion to override does not need to be made tonight, but can be made on the 26th. So I don't think there's really any need for any motions at all. We'll just take it up on the 26th.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, that is correct.
Okay. Or it can be done within 21 days, right? That's because there's two choices, right, Mr. Attorney? Yeah, there's two choices there. Yeah. Okay. So now we count the motions out of order then?
No, because he did make the motions. The Assemblymember Panoff could move to withdraw the motions. He's
Okay.
given me, there's intent to override. I can always put it on the 926, but right now we have motions on the floor. He could either move forward with those motions or withdraw those motions.
I guess if I withdraw that motion, and my question is, I want to know that, are we able to still, and that will give us plenty of time to research for those who have any maybe additional questions, something like that, for on the 26th to still override the veto is my question. What do we need to do?
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Panoff, yes, if you've given me your intent that you want to move to override, I would put it on the next agenda. Correct?
Yes, then I'll withdraw the motion and with intent that we will have option to vote on the next regular meeting.
Okay.
Any objection to withdraw?
Any objection to withdrawing? Okay. So, okay, we're ready to move on? Okay. Introductions of ordinance.
Introduction for public hearing on 926, ordinance 23068, ordinance 23074, and ordinance 23080.
Okay. Assemblyperson Hours.
I move to introduce the legislation as read into the record by the clerk and set the public hearings for September 26, 2023.
Okay. Is there any objection? Okay, hearing none, then the legislation has been introduced. Vacancy report, Assemblyperson Hours, go ahead.
I move to confirm the mayor's recommendations as follows. Planning Commission, Andrew Shane. West Lakes Fire Service Area number 136, resignation of Kenneth Widmer. Alpine RSA number 32, resignation of Julie Morgan.
Okay. Discussion on the vacancy report. Is there any objection? Okay, hearing none. In your red folders tonight and also out on the rack for the public is the people that have put in for the Water Body Setback Advisory Board. We had 18 applicants. Well, we had 19 applicants, but the one applicant lived in Anchorage, and so that's does not follow the ordinance for the appointment for this board. And so the thing is in your red folder with the people, and it's an Excel spreadsheet. So it is, you'll see what positions they put in for. It's a single piece of paper that's in your folder. Yeah. So they have the name, and then you'll see the X for whether like Planning Commission, whatever, for the different places. We did have some people that put in for specific seats as well as for at large, and so some people have two X's. Does anybody have any question about that? Yes, Assemblyperson McKee.
Yeah, there are a couple of columns that don't have anybody in them. What do we do?
What, I think there's only one, which is DEC.
Oh, I was looking at the, whatever that other thing was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DEC did offer someone, which is a person that lives in Anchorage.
Yes.
And that person is not eligible. We have, and DEC says they do not have anybody else that resides in the borough that is interested in serving. So we discussed that we will continue to reach out to them, and if they have somebody that wants to come and listen and testify and partake, they most certainly can do that, but they will not be a voting member. Okay?
Yes, thank you. A lady called me and said that as far as a DEC person would be concerned, that the DEC has to approve that they do this. Is that so?
They have to approve of what?
Of the person who is, of a person who made the application. If they get chosen, DEC has to say, yeah, they can do it, or no, they can't.
I'm sorry, I still didn't understand.
There was a lady that called and said that there is a person who may be interested in DEC, but DEC said that unless DEC actually approves that person to go into that position, that they couldn't do it. Do you know anything about that? I don't.
No, we didn't have anybody that applied for the DEC position except for the one gentleman
Yeah.
that lived in Anchorage. So
Yeah,
if that person was interested, she could have applied. I don't think we reached out to DEC to ask them
Yeah.
for names of applicants, but I don't believe we would have said, okay, Mary Smith has applied, and so we have to have DEC approval before we appoint Mary Smith to that position. There wasn't any restrictions like that given out that I'm aware of. Yes, go ahead, sir.
We don't care, but it sounds like DEC might care. And when you're employed by the state of Alaska, they probably have personnel rules just like we do. And you probably need permission from your bosses, just like we would do if somebody wanted to serve on another governmental board or commission. And so that's an employment matter between DEC and their employees. We have no restriction, but whatever this person told you indicates that DEC might have rules about it.
That's what it sounds like, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Assemblyperson Palmer.
After reviewing some of the stuff and briefly talking to Mayor, I was, some of the people that did file, and I specifically talked to two of them, had a intent that their qualification was good for one of the positions, which was, let's say, the storm practices, and then actually in the next column, but they're also expressed if they would not be getting that position, they would want to be considered for the people at large. And we have several people on both the storm and RE column who showed the interest, and we can only have one from each of that column. And I would like to see if we could, if I could do a motion so that those people, if they're not chosen for neither of those columns, because there's only one, which is one is award seat, that they would still be considered for the at large, for your discretion to have list to choose from.
Go ahead.
If I could just answer that for you, or Madam Mayor, is the mayor has the authority to put people forward. The assembly can either reject them or accept them. It's completely up to the mayor who she puts forward. So the assembly couldn't really make an motion and have it adopted and have the mayor do that. It's completely up to the mayor who she sends forward, not the assembly.
I guess my question, is she able, if those people that are not in that didn't select the at large, but they expressed interest in the other two columns, with if they are not chosen, that can she still go ahead and consider those as options at large?
Yes.
Yes, she can. Okay,
Yes.
that answers my question,
Yes.
though.
Okay.
Therefore, then we don't need to do anything. My question is answered, and hopefully there's very qualified candidates between those two columns that even if they don't represent that seat on that position, they are still candidates for at large, even though they have not selected on this sheet. Correct, Lonnie?
Oh, are you talking about, did they put it on their applications? So if you did not, let me rephrase what I just said. Now I'm understanding where you're going, Assemblymember Vanoff. If they didn't, if they put in for the, let's say, real estate board, but they did not also say they wanted to be a member at large, at this point, no. Now, some members did. Some people said that they could qualify for real estate and at large.
Mm-hmm.
Some members didn't do that. So the mayor can only look at what people have applied for. So if they didn't put at large down, they can't.
Okay, even though there was, I guess, a little bit of misunderstanding because I thought they needed to choose one, but some selected 2 columns. And I just wanted to give that mayor a discretion to have that option as well.
Yeah, the deadline for applying is passed. So that if they wanted to add on to something, and there was, I think, at least one, if maybe 2 applications that Estelle even called because they hadn't put down anything. They just said the water setbacks. So Estelle called, and then we asked them to take and reply back in writing to us which they had selected. And all of that was done prior to the closing at 5 p.m. on Friday. So, yeah. Further discussion or questions on the Excel sheet? Oh, I'm sorry, Assemblyperson Howard.
I would just, it's ideal to have an odd number of people, but I see what happened, and I'm glad that DEC will bring their expertise to the table, even if they're not voting. And I would expect that this body will work together, and hopefully we don't have a, tie vote, that they work together to find common solutions. So having an even number won't be an issue.
Right. I was just going to say that, but go ahead, because I asked him the question. Go ahead, sir.
The mayor's able to make all the appointments because the ordinance says as feasible, appointments shall be from boom, boom, boom. And the very definition of not feasible is nobody's qualified. So the names the DEC submitted not being qualified means it's not feasible to appoint somebody to that seat. The mayor's going to be able to appoint whoever she wants, subject to assembly approval, of course.
Well, I fully expect the mayor to make good choices and represent the valley, so I don't think that'll be an issue.
So if I may, to clarify with the attorney, does that mean the question that I had before, that gives a mayor ability to put people who, even though they didn't select it, or to offer that position for the at-large seat or not?
If the mayor decides that that's what she wants to do, she can, because it says as feasible in the ordinance. And the only check and balance on it is just like all the other appointments, is that if the assembly disagrees and says, no, we think there are better candidates out there, you can reject particular candidates.
Okay, well, I wanted her to have more options, and I think there's a qualified candidates, and now that gives you an ability to choose them if you'd like to, and then obviously it's going through us, but I did want her to have that option. Thank you.
I think as feasible gives me the option in the world. So
Thank you for
guys the
correcting
option.
me, Mr. Spiropoulos.
And it gives you the option of rejecting. So there we are. Any other questions on the Excel spreadsheet? Okay. Alrighty. So there are no other new business. There are no referrals. There are no reconsiderations. And so we're going to do comments because we have an executive session. So when we come out of the executive session, we will be able to address whatever we want to at that time, but we'll take comments at this time. So Assemblyperson Fauna. Oh, let me go to online first so I don't forget you. Assemblyperson Hale, online comments. Oops.
No comment at this time, thank you.
Okay. Assemblyperson Fauna, comment?
No, thank you for everyone, and I do look forward that we do, all the assemblymen, people will get this look into and maybe ask additional questions if they did have, so that when we do have next session, we could make educated decision as far as what we passed on. And hopefully if there is something that is concerning, that we'll have a good answer between now and then. And then that's it. Thank you.
Assemblyperson Nowers, parting comment?
I made it to the state fair twice, and it was fabulous, and I wish I could have gone again. Lots of fun things happened there this year, and despite rainy weather, there was just crowds every day. I'm super enthused to hear about the bed tax being up. Just seeing that continued growth in that industry in the Mat-Su doesn't surprise me, and I'll certainly be doing my part to let people know that we're looking for hand count folks, so we have enough when the elections happen.
Okay. Madam Clerk, parting comments? Okay. No parting. Assemblyperson McKee, parting comments?
I do. The young gentleman who spoke about the recycling is a former student of mine, and I was proud of him then, and I am now. Recycling is a real passion of mine, and maybe I made a mark. So good on you, dude. Nice to see you here.
Assemblyperson 2, no comment. Assemblyperson, go ahead.
I'd like to thank the Lord. We want to thank you for all your love and blessings. Please keep our borough safe and focused on doing your will. Please help the poor, the downtrodden, the sick, the addicted, the people that are hurting. Please give our leaders the wisdom to lead. Give parents the will to teach and the children a listening heart to learn your way. May you speak to our hearts, Lord. May we love our neighbors. May we pray for our enemies. May you work in their lives. Please bring a revival to our valley. Fill our hearts with your Holy Spirit. May we love you with all our hearts, with all our soul, and all our minds. Amen.
We are in executive session, and Assemblyperson Nowers, would you move us into executive session, please?
I move to enter executive session for matters which the immediate public knowledge of which would clearly have an adverse effect upon the finances of the borough, and matters which by law, municipal charter, or ordinance are required to be kept confidential, and to discuss matters involving consideration of borough records that by law are not subject to public disclosure.
Assemblyperson Fanoff, sit down.
And discussion of matters subject to attorney-client privilege, in particular discuss snow removal claims submitted by the road service area contractors. Those in executive session will be the mayor, the assembly, the manager, the attorney, the clerk, George Hayes, Russ Kraft, Tom Adams, and Cheyenne Heindel.
Okay. Discussion on the executive session. Ron, would you turn off your mic? Okay. Is there any objection to going into an executive session? Okay, hearing no objection, we will enter the executive session at 7:20.
And for the assembly members, we are going to go down to the lower level conference room since we have more people joining us. It's a bigger room. And Assembly Member Hale, if you'll give me a minute, a little bit to call into the line.
Absolutely.
Assemblyperson Nowers.
I move to exit executive session.
Okay. Do we need to have a time at this time?
Yeah, is there any objection?
Oh, no, I mean, does she need to say the time?
No, you
No.
say it at the end.
Okay.
You say it once if there's no objection, then you say we exit act.
Okay. Is there any discussion about coming out of executive session? Okay. Hearing no objection, then we will exit the executive session at 8:58. And we will adjourn at 8:59.